The monument will be unveiled by President Jacob Zuma and Mozambican President Filipe Nyusi. SABC's Mtobisi Mkalipi reports.
The monument was built to honor the foreign heroes who died during the Matola raid in 1981. 13 Umkhonto we members died during the raid. Many who were in the front line from Lesotho, Botswana and Mozambique were attacked by the then South African Defence Force for giving refuge to those who were in exile. The South African government is using Heritage Month to commemorate events such as Matola raid. I'm Mtobisi Mkalipi in Mozambique.
And finally, deteriorating conditions at a transit camp in Hungary have prompted refugee advocates to urge governments in Europe to ease restrictions on migrants. Video footage shows disturbing scenes inside the overcrowded refugee camp close to Hungary's border with Serbia, with police throwing food bags to migrants. The condition is also bad on the Austrian side of the border. The BBC's Bethany Bell reports.
I'm standing just at the border, behind me a place where people have been sleeping rough overnight. The police and the authorities say that at least 2,500, if not 3,500 people crossed over in recent hours, and they're bracing themselves for another 4,000 or 5,000 today. And we've seen people having to wait here at the border for much longer for buses to Austria, to places like Vienna and on to Germany.
Recapping the top story, founding president of the Kara Heritage Institute, Dr. Matolo Motshekga, says the fossils discovered at the Marobeng Cradle of Humankind World Heritage Site will lead to a new debate about the origins of humankind. Headlines at 10:30.
You're listening to Morning Talk with Rowena Bear. Great conversations sound a little something like this.
It's time now for our science and technology slot, and the focus today is on the Center of Excellence, which uses mathematics to understand and predict the development of diseases. Now, the center also provides advice on how best to combat those diseases. And joining us to elaborate further is Ms. Cindy Carvalho, who is a master's student at the School of Computer Science and Applied Mathematics. Good morning, Ms. Carvalho. Thank you for joining us. Welcome.
Thank you, Rowena. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. But before we get started on our conversation, I'd like your views on the discovery of the fossils of Homo naledi. I think we split right down the middle on this one in terms of our evolution as a human race.
Yes, it's such exciting news to be finding out these new research areas that have now come into play, and it's quite exciting that it's in South Africa. So we all here at WITS are all very, very, very excited about that.
Because the people who are saying this has got nothing to do with us as humans, it's got nothing to do with with the fact that with us, with mankind or humankind.
No, definitely. I definitely think that it does have to do with us, and it's just so exciting that we're finding such great research topics in South Africa. I mean, this is the melting pot of future research developments in this area.
Oh, wow.
This is where it's happening.
Let's talk about what you are directly involved with. Let's talk about the Centers of Excellence. I think they were launched about 10, 11 years ago by the Department of Science and Technology and the National Research Foundation. Yours was actually launched 2 years later in 2006. Which is the Center of Excellence in Epidemiological Modeling and Analysis. Tell us more.
Sorry, in terms of the Center of Excellence that we've launched, it's currently the Center of Excellence in Mathematical and Statistical Science.
I see. Okay.
Which was launched in 2014. So we were established in 2014. It's the Center of Excellence in Mathematical and Statistical Science. And the center focuses on using various mathematical and statistical tools to solve real-world problems of social significance. So one of the leading themes that the center has been focusing on is the mathematical modeling of diseases such as cancer and HIV, which is
all right. And break it down for us and make me understand, how does mathematics help to predict the development of diseases like cancer and HIV, like you say?
Right. Okay. So let me give you an example. For example, if we're taking into consideration HIV and AIDS. So the mathematical modeling of that, what happens is, in terms of resources, we have very scarce resources in terms of ARVs and how we distribute it. So it's important to observe how the disease diseases such as AIDS advances in certain areas, certain regions. So by studying the spread of the diseases in different communities, we can identify key hotspots to target in order to optimally distribute the ARVs. Okay, so we can see how the disease is going to develop in years to come, so that we can provide some further information to the appropriate authorities so that they can make more informed decisions regarding strategies in controlling diseases such as AIDS.
I don't think I still quite get how mathematics is used, though, as a tool for that.
All right. So in terms of the mathematics, it's like computer simulations. So it's called, there's one type of model called an agent-based model where you have different regions, and in terms of there's these agents that we create on a computer system, and each agent has a certain risk factor, and they have certain environmental factors that contribute to them being more susceptible or not. And you instill a person maybe in one region that has the disease, whichever disease it is, and you see how, doing many simulations, you see how this disease actually propagates in certain areas. So if, for example, you were in a region, an area where there's not a lot of, not a highly dense population, right? And you had a disease such as TB going around that can be transmitted maybe through just coughing or something, and then you put into another region with a highly dense population. How does the different regions, taking into consideration what disease you're dealing with, how that disease actually develops? How does it spread? How quickly does it spread? Because that's really key for us to know the development of the disease. How many people will get it in 5 years' time? What will the numbers be in 10 years' time? In order for appropriate authorities like the Department of Health and so on to be able to combat this disease as effectively as possible.
All right. Given the examples you are making, I'd assume that you've been working in the field of HIV and tuberculosis primarily.
I personally haven't. My research field is actually focused mainly on mathematical modeling of tsunami behavior. So I'm looking at waves, run-ups on beaches, but I do have a few colleagues that have been working in the modeling of HIV and
all right.
AIDS.
Let's talk about what you particularly do, just briefly, the tsunami of waves, you say. What's that about?
So my research is focused predominantly on mathematically modeling tsunami behavior. So specifically looking at how the wave approaches the beach, as it is approaching the beach, how far can we expect it or predict the wave to run up on the beach, as well as determining the speeds at which these waves hit the shores. And we would think, why is this important in a real life situation? If you looked a few years ago at the tsunami that hit off the coast of Japan, you saw there were safe zones that were created. Now, these safe zones, so if there was a tsunami alert, the people were taken, they were told to go to these safe zones, so there's evacuation routes and so on. So if you have these safe zones and they're not high up enough, obviously they won't be safe anymore. So as the tsunami comes and it hits shoreward, the people's lives will still be in danger. So optimal strategies for evacuation routes and all of that rely heavily on how far the tsunami will move inland and at what speeds it will hit.
All right.
So this is particularly what I'm dealing with.
But we're not prone to tsunamis in South Africa, are we?
No. We, thank goodness, we're not prone to tsunamis in South Africa.
And why is that?
There's quite a few reasons for that. You can ask more the geography people. I just usually work on the maths, but I know it usually happens more in your warmer waters. I mean, so it's more off the coast of Asia and all of that. So in terms of us, we don't usually experience tsunamis, but it's a very interesting topic to be looking at the moment. In America, they're doing obviously a lot of this type of modeling, but yeah, this is just one of the research topics that have been flourishing at the moment, and it ties in nicely with one of the themes that the CoE actually are working on, which is mathematical modeling of the Earth and the environment. So it's one of the key themes reflected in the CoE.
All right. You mentioned that you've got a couple of colleagues who work on the development or, research into the development of diseases like HIV and tuberculosis and cancer and so on. And what are they saying in terms of the development of these particular diseases?
Oh, well, in terms of the development, like in terms of cancer, I've got one of my colleagues, Avnish. He's dealing with cancer and how to effectively administer chemotherapy. So he'll look at the actual drug and how it passes through the system and look at the fluid properties of that in order to, because chemo drugs have a magnetic property. So if you can model how the fluid flows through the system, you can effectively administer the chemotherapy. So he's currently looking at that, and it's quite new work, so he's excited about that. And that's quite interesting developments that could come from something like that.
All right, let's speak to Desmond now. Remember, we are taking your calls on 0891 104 207. Good morning, Desmond. Welcome.
Rowena,
Yes.
that lady, okay. What actually, I know I've heard that because I was also very much interested, as you were, how mathematics could be related to HIV, to cancer and other diseases. How can it work there? But now I understand that it's almost on the numerical predictions how a disease can spread. So on that one, I'm asking, how is it? How are the areas, the warm areas of the world, does the disease spread quicker than the cold areas? Then number two is about the wave this time, as we did actually at one time have a mini tsunami here when our beaches were damaged. They had to sort of repair the beaches quick so that when the tourists come in, the beaches will be much better, replacing sand because it was sort of damaged. As the working of the waves, as how it washes into the beach, into the coast, all those things are quite interesting. As this lady puts it, that how now the rise of the wave, when the weather is not good. I know when the weather is bad, then the waves will go high.
But what do you mean when the weather is bad? When it's raining?
Yes, when it's raining, when there's wind, when there's wind out there at sea, because that's where I discovered that the sky is always looks like the sea. The sea is blue because of the sky. Because when on an adverse weather conditions, you'll find that the sea becomes grayish because of the sky that is grey. Thank you, Rowena.
All right, thank you, Desmond. Ms. Carvalho?
Yes, let me comment on that. Thank you, Desmond. Thank you for your call. According to the first question you had about the disease spread in the warmer climates as opposed to the more cooler climates, I don't have much information on that. Like I said, I don't specialize in disease spread. But surely, if you look at in terms of bacteria, what I know, so in terms of bacteria and stuff, the warmer climates, you're more likely to have disease spreading and such because obviously your bacteria prefer a warmer, moist climate. So in terms of the first question, that's just my 2 cents on that. In terms of the beaches, I can comment a bit more on that. He was talking about the sand. I remember a few years ago, I think it was in KZN where, I think it was near Mshlanga and Belita where the beaches were actually washed up, and it was just before the December break or so. And the beaches were washed up quite high. And in terms of wind-generated waves, that's what I think Desmond was talking about. He says when the weather gets
it's
bad,
windy.
exactly, when it's windy. So there's different types of waves. One of the waves in which Desmond is referring to is something called a wind-generated wave. Now that's a surface wave. So as the wind blows, it moves the surface of the wave, and that propagates forward. Like in terms of a tsunami, tsunamis are caused by different types of events, such as an earthquake. Now, earthquake is just seismic activity on the seabed. So the wave will actually be created at the seabed. So instead of just the top part of the water moving, you actually have a whole column of water moving forward. And that's what creates that big wave coming inland, because there's something called a shoaling effect that takes place. So as we move more inland, you can imagine that the seabed starts to steepen slightly. So it can kind of be seen as like a wedge. So as the water comes and it approaches this wedge, the shoaling effect takes place, and this wave, this big column of water, now is hitting an incline, and that's where you get that large pop-up of the tsunami wave, which can measure, I mean, there was one that was measuring 100 meters high.
Wow.
That's the monstrous effect of a tsunami. So those are your super waves. But I think Desmond was speaking about, yes, the wind-generated waves. So the sea does become more rough, and it's just the increase in the wind that's creating this wave.
We are in conversation with Ms. Cindy Carvalho, who is a master's student at the School of Computer Science and Applied Mathematics at Wits University. And we are talking about her area of research primarily, but we're also talking about how mathematics can be used to predict and to predict the development of diseases. The center also provides advice on how best to combat those diseases.
ANN7 presents the biggest performers: Christina Aguilera, Jason Derulo, The Soil, a.k.a. Giano Sky, Mafiki Zolo. The biggest show ever, live at the Ticket Pro Dome on 17th October. I'll be there. Will you? Grab your tickets now at ticketpro.co.za.
Is your small business or business idea brilliant? Do you know how to pitch your business or idea effectively? Would expert business advice help you take it to the next level? In association with SAFM, NGN Pitch and Polish, the National Entrepreneurial Workshop and Competition Program is coming to a town near you. For more information, SMS PITCH to 45901. That's PITCH to 45901. Or go to pitchandpolish.com. SMSs are charged at R1.50.
Our best conversations are the ones we have with you. Call us on 0891 104 207. Tweet at SAFM Radio or SMS 34701. SAFM, South Africa's news and information leader.
And thank you for calling us, Tapelo. Good morning and welcome.
Hi, Rowena.
Hi there.
Just a quick one. I want to come to the subject at hand, but I just want to comment on and that thing and his standpoint. Look, the simple thing is like this, if in 1550, let's say, one started to talk about us talking and me sitting on a cell phone here and reaching you there, and you reaching the whole of South Africa using the radio waves and other waves, somebody would say you're crazy. And equally, look, I don't know where he would stand in relation to the first to the position, the fact, not a belief, the fact that the universe as we have it today, it actually starts from the Big Bang and the movement. Right. And
Tapela, I'm going to have to push
so
you
let
now
me come
to comment
to this lady.
on. Yes.
Yeah. Now, look, I think it makes a lot of sense to the extent that when one starts modeling a particular concentration of people, it's not unlike, I think my analogy, if I'm correct, is to start looking if you are having a product that needs to penetrate a particular market, you look at all the dynamics of that factors that are within that, which is the buying capacity and et cetera, and the concentration. And by being able to do that, you are able to basically design a delivery model, a model that is actually going to enable you to reach the most concentrated area, which is to optimize your sales, where it's actually going to have a market. And lastly, this is something that's quite commendable because one hasn't thought about it from the perspective of statistics, and which is very much part of mathematical modeling. I think you're listening on the radio.
All right. Thank you very much, Tapelo. Ms. Carvalho?
Oh, thank you, Tapelo. That was a good analogy. I mean, it's exactly, he's reiterating exactly what I'm saying. Like you could think of the Department of Health being your salesperson, your company, and they need to target a niche market, to target the affected area. You know what I mean? So he just literally reiterated exactly what I was saying. It's quite powerful stuff when you have these scarce resources, and you are able to effectively and optimally provide and get them to where they need to be. That's the important thing.
All right. An SMS from Don in Cape Town reads, "Don't the movements of the tectonic plates create these tsunami waves?"
Well, the movement of the tectonic plates is seismic activity at the seabed. Yes, he is correct. There's different causes for tsunamis. There can be that could be one of them. There also could be landslides under sea that creates these tsunamis. So there are different types of causes.
Right, let's talk about how, just broadly, the centers of excellence that we were chatting about right at the beginning of our conversation, the 7 centers of excellence, how are they aligned with the National Development Plan? I guess what I'm asking broadly is what happens with the information that you get from your research. You know, do you then send it to government, and how does it then address the challenges that we faced in South Africa and the challenges that the NDP seeks to address?
Right. Well, in terms of the aims and the objectives of the Centre of Excellence, our main focus is to produce new knowledge and postgraduates in the mathematical and statistical sciences in South Africa. So we know that mathematics is a scarce skill internationally, not only in South Africa, even abroad. So the Centre of Excellence, specifically the Centre of Excellence in Mathematical and Statistical Sciences, we focus on producing new knowledge and postgrads in this area in South Africa. We aim to collaborate nationally and internationally with experts and other research visitors. So broadening our horizons to create collaborations with international research.
In fact, I was going to ask about that, about whether you are internationalizing the research that you're doing.
Definitely. I mean, collaborations with isolation is never good in terms of research. You always want to be able to collaborate with international experts as well, and we've got experts locally here. So it's always exciting when they come over and they give talks and talk about their research, because in terms of seeing things from different points of view, it makes the research much more stronger and effective. So we're definitely creating international ties, which is quite interesting. And engaging with the youth, engaging with the postgrads like myself, the Centre of Excellence is definitely doing such a great job in terms of that, in terms of moving the boundaries in terms of education in South Africa, so that we can be regarded as a world-renowned figure in terms of mathematical and statistical science.
And who are the biggest international partners that you collaborate with in your research?
Currently, we're collaborating a lot with, I'm currently collaborating with a professor in America, together with my supervisor. So it depends on who the research field, who's the leaders in the research field at the moment. So there's so many different research fields that we have different collaborators from all over the world. I wouldn't say that there's just one specific place, if I can put it that way. It just depends who you particularly are focused, what your research is.
And in terms of the long-term sustainability of centers of excellence and their funding, would you like to briefly just talk about that before I let you go?
All right. Well, I know in terms of keeping the the sense of excellence going. Like I said, the Department of Science and Technology has established it, has contributed. So it's in large part, as I can just say, of what the knowledge I know, is the government's contributing and making sure that the centre runs. But I'm sure there's also external, I can't give you much information about this, but I'm sure there also are external funders.
All right. Well, from the Centre of Excellence on Mathematical and Statistical Science, we're talking to Ms. Cindy Cavallo, who is a master's student at the School of Computer Science and Applied Mathematics at Wits University. Thank you much for your time.
Thank you.
It's 10:30, time for the news headlines with Utsile Saku.
Thanks, Rowena. Good morning. Founding president of the Khara Heritage Institute, Dr. Matole Motshekga, says the fossils discovered at the Maropeng Cradle of Humankind World Heritage Site will lead to a new debate about the origins of humankind. Motshekga says the search of human origin in apes or baboons is just a futile exercise. The EFF's legal team is this morning submitting an affidavit of service to the High Court in Cape Town. The affidavit of service is meant to prove whether papers have or have not been served to the respondent. This comes after EFF lawyers tried to serve the National Assembly with court papers for the matter to be heard urgently before EFF leader Julius Malema's 5-day suspension from the National Assembly expires. And a court in India's western Mumbai city has found 12 men guilty for their role in the 2006 bombings of commuter trains. Details at 11.
The rand is trading at 13 rand 65 to the dollar, 21 rand 8 to pound sterling, and 15 rand 41 to the euro. The euro is at $1.12 and the dollar is trading at 120.53 Japanese yen. The Chinese yuan is at 2 rand 14, and in India, 1 rand is worth 4 rupees 86. In Nigeria, $1 is at 199 naira, in Kenya at 105 shilling 15, and in Botswana at 10 pula 41. And now for a brief look at some of the stock markets. China stocks ended a directionless session with mixed performance as investors awaited more signals for trying to judge the health of the country's economy. Hong Kong's Hang Seng and mainland China's Shanghai Composite Index were both flat. In India, on the Bombay Stock Exchange, the Sensex is 0.17% firmer. The JSE at this hour, the All-Share Index, gave up 0.46% to 49,299. Financials are 0.64% weaker, and Industrials 25 has declined by 0.55%. The Top 10 Resources Index is flat. The Platinum Mining Index has weakened by 1.2%. The Gold Board is 3.58% lower. On the capital market, the yield on the R186 government bond is at 8.46%. Britain's FTSE 100 is flat, Germany's DAX has declined by 0.42%, and the CAC 40 in France is 0.1% weaker. Looking at commodities, gold is trading at $1,108 and platinum is at $980 an ounce. The price of Brent crude oil is trading at $48.20 a barrel.
5FM presents Joburg Live Loud. Live Loud.
An afternoon with friends, your favorite acts, and 5FM DJs.
Joburg Live Loud, presented by 5FM. Saturday, September 12th at Marks Park Everentia with AKA Freshly Ground, Matthew Mole, Black Motion, The Polytones, KO, Zebra and Giraffe, Jeremy Luce, and Mikasa.
Book your tickets now at CompuTicket.
Live Loud to the power of 5FM presents Joburg Live Loud.
105.1, the home of SAFM in Johannesburg. SAFM, South Africa's news and information leader.
It's 26 minutes to 11. Now, there's been a birth of an initiative called Conversation with Men. It's also known as Convo with Men. And today we ask, what does it mean to be a man in today's world? Convo with Men initiative will be rolled out in all the 9 provinces, and we're told it promises to change men's bad habits. Joining us to tell us more is Mr. Njabulo Madonsela, the spokesperson for Convo with Men. Good morning. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Madonsela. What are some of those bad habits that men have?
All right. Well, what a way to kickstart the conversation. Firstly, let me say good morning to all the listeners of SAFM, and thank you for this opportunity.
Good morning.
Yes. The world offers a lot of conflicting views, obviously, about what it means to be a man and what it's all about. Just to kick off.
Do you have your radio on, Mr. Madonsela? Sorry, I need to interject there. Is your radio on?
No, I'm not.
Or do you have me on? Do you have me on speaker, maybe? Because we've got some terrible feedback. Okay, let's try. Go ahead.
All right. Just yesterday, as I was chatting to my colleagues about some of the issues that men have, there's basically 2 stories that came out and that are really shocking about men's behavior. One was that of a young leader who shambocked his girlfriend to death. And the second story was about a man in Limpopo who killed his 4 children and his wife and tried to commit suicide. And really, that is looked at as a norm, or sort of what men behave as today.
But
the subject. Yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to say, for me, the worst thing about the man who killed his children is that he phoned his wife to say he's about to do this, and the poor woman was helpless sitting in Pretoria while the man was in Polokwane. But yeah, I just thought I should say that the fact that, for him to have done that, to phone the wife and say, I'm about to kill your children, really heartless.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. I mean, those are some of the stories that we really read about on a daily basis that talk about the bad behaviors of men. And it doesn't really end there. Secondly, you have statistics that show us that in 2014, 2/3 of all the children that were born did not have details of a father on the birth certificate. And that was backed up by SAFM to show that there's a high level of absenteeism of males in households. And this obviously results in a lot of social ills that we are seeing today, in as far as crime, the high levels of poverty, drug and alcohol abuse, and the lack of sense of identity and purpose for a man. So that is where conversation with men comes in, which is really a movement of like-minded men who want to change society and the community and really try to reclaim the position of men to ensure that men pick up their rightful position and role within society as role models and leaders. And this is not to really wage a war against opposite gender, that is women or children, but really to talk to men who have issues, where men will actually sit down and talk about the issues that they are facing today in the country, in the continent, and around the world, because it is not just a South African problem, but it's actually a global problem. So as young men of the 21st century, it is something that we feel, or rather we experience, because these are some of the things that we had to go through, or some of the young men of the day actually had to go through.
But it sounds like a similar initiative to the one which is spearheaded by Mr. Mbuyiselo Botha. I can't think of the initiative now, but it sounds like something similar, because truth is, evil is perpetuated. I don't know what that saying, how the saying goes. Evil is perpetuated when good men sit around and do nothing. And you are wanting to change the course of history. You want to do something about what's been happening.
Yes, exactly. And to be able to do that now, we're going to, with conversation with men, we're actually looking at 4 elements that we're looking to actually tackle in as far as these issues that men are going through are concerned. Looking at the issue of economy and business, or the issue of earning a living, because, one of the primary responsibilities of a man is that of provision. It has been known throughout the ages. And having lost that, looking at how things have been in the recent ages, we thought it would be best for us to actually start with that. Say, how do you position yourself in a way that you can be able to earn yourself an honest living and be able to provide for yourself first, and then your immediate family, and be able to be that person in the community who is looked at as someone who's responsible, who takes care of themselves and their families. Secondly, we're looking at lifestyle issues with conversation with men. Lifestyle that is in relation to health in particular. I think we know that prostate cancer is one of those that are actually silent killers of men. When we talk about breast cancer, any man can tell you what breast cancer is all about, but some men don't even know what prostate cancer is, and it affects them sometimes, and often actually it affects them without them saying anything about it. Thirdly, we'll be looking at issues of governance, how this democracy, or rather how the